Welcome back to Game Over Movie Reviews. My name is Peter, and today I'm going to be looking at all my first time watches, new and old, from the month of April. There are 15 films in this list, 7 from 2021, or at least that's when they were released in the UK. More on that eye roll later. We also have stuff from the past couple of years and an 80s classic. So let's get started with the ranking with number 15, The Meg. I just needed an easy watch where I could put my brain into neutral and watch a silly creature flick. And yeah, that's kind of what I got, but also it was pretty shit. The Meg goes for that scattershot Marvel comedic approach where everyone says snappy one-liners and every scene ends with someone saying something like, well, that just happened. It's super awkward though because there's just no chemistry between any of these characters, so all this so-called comedy falls flat. Some of the performances too are atrocious, with Bing Bing Lee and Ruby Rose battling out to see who can be the most wooden and least engaging. Rainn Wilson is also pretty terrible and completely miscast. Jason Statham has for some reason decided that every time he talks he has to point at someone. I think this is his effort at character building. It's a very poorly paced film too, where the second act starts to really drag. These kind of films should just be stupid fun, but this one ended up just being stupid. Number 14. Maelstrom. This is Denis Villeneuve's second film, which was released in the year 2000, and I've just released a video of my ranking of all Villeneuve films, which you can see here, and the link will be in the description below, so I'm not going to talk about this film anymore. Number 13. The Wicker Man. Yeah, 2006. Hopefully some of you watched the Extreme Movie Trivia Challenge on one of my absolute favourite YouTube channels, Luke's Reviews. Again, the link's up there and you know where it is down there. Spoilers for that video, I got the short straw and was asked questions by another great movie YouTuber, Jared from Jared Talk Cinema, who must admit I like a little less after the super tough questions he posted meant I lost this challenge. My forfeit for losing was to watch and review a terrible film of the winner's choice, which was Luke. Cats was discussed but was deemed maybe a little bit too cruel, and eventually they both got together and settled on the Nicolas Cage classic, The Wicker Man. So this will be my next review on the channel, so I'm not going to talk about it anymore. But again, thanks to Luke and Jared for this one. Great guys, both of them. Number 12, Cocktail. During lockdown, me and my girlfriend have been theming some of our evening's entertainment on the theme of a country. So we base our food, our drinks and our movie choice on that country. And we'd picked the Caribbean, which I know is not a country, and we were struggling to find something which was made or from the Caribbean. Google suggested Cocktail because some of it's set in the Caribbean and it just so happens to be one of my girlfriend's favourite films. And I didn't think I'd seen it, I couldn't remember anyway.
This is the big time. Are you ready for the big time, young Mr. Flanagan?
I think I can handle it.
And, well, it's now a film I have seen. I would describe Cocktail as a very entertaining mess. It really is all over the shop, plot and tone-wise. I was expecting Tom Cruise being his usual over-the-top self, lots of party scenes and exuberance, and I kind of got that for some of it. But then the muddled plot kind of juts in and the tone really is all over the shop. I have to admit I actually had a good time watching Cocktail. It is an entertaining film, but at the same time, it's absolute crap. Number 11, Run. I'd been looking forward to seeing Run for some time. It's another film that was released months and months ago in America, and I'd heard a lot of good buzz about it. I was also a massive fan of Anish Chaganty's first film, Searching, a very simple film which became more than the sum of its parts. Run, however, is exactly the sum of its parts, and I found it to be a major disappointment. This is the kind of film which only inhabits its synopsis. What I mean by that is that Run goes nowhere beyond its post-it note plot. So if you were to pick this up in a video shop, read the back of the box, video shop. There's my age. DVD, Blu-rays, whatever it is these days, you just know what this film's going to give you. It's very familiar, completely predictable, and it just never once surprised me. I wasn't a great fan of either of the lead performances, with Kira Allen just repeating the same facial reaction over and over and over again. And Run also includes one of the most convoluted scenes I've ever witnessed, involving the smashing of a window. It's just preposterously stupid. The ending too is a real stinker. I mean, a proper turkey. Just a massive disappointment, this film. Number 10, Terminator Dark Fate.
Talk fast.
You first.
So to be honest, I wasn't really expecting much from this, and I kind of got what I expected. There is a lot here I didn't like. Mackenzie Davis, I'm not a great fan of. I found woefully miscast. Linda Hamilton seems to have totally forgotten how to act. But worst of all is Arnie's T-800, who now goes by the name of Carl. Now I can buy that this Terminator eventually broke his programming and chose to retire, living out the rest of his battery life as a human. That's fine. What I can't buy is that he called himself Carl, started a drapery business, and has settled down with a wife and kid who don't know his true identity. They've not noticed he never eats, drinks or sleeps and weighs half a fucking ton.
Bullshit.
I can let plenty of things go in sci-fi. I don't try and nitpick too much, especially when time travel's involved, for example. But this is some grade A top level bullshit. Luckily, many negatives aside, Terminator Dark Fate has some absolutely badass action scenes. 2 late sequences on board a plane and near a dam are the 2 real standouts, and they are genuinely thrilling set pieces shot exceptionally well. So yeah, again, it was kind of trash, but there was enough there which meant I didn't hate it. Number 9, Stowaway. Stowaway is a solid little film, and there was a lot I liked about it. The direction, production design, cinematography, effects and the cast are all excellent. I like the way this is a small, grounded sci-fi dealing with a simple idea with a big moral implication. I just wish they'd gone a little bit further with that idea in the last third though. After the amazingly tense spacewalk scene, it felt like they pushed aside the character development and relationships and didn't capitalise on what they'd built. It meant that the ending felt like the film just stopped. I really feel Stowaway had more to give. That ending should have really resonated, but it didn't feel fully formed, like ending a film with a comma rather than a full stop. I generally enjoyed Stowaway and I gave it 3 out of 5 on Letterboxd, but I didn't find it as good as Joe Penna's first film, Arctic. Number 8, Chef. Chef's been on my watch list for some time now, and I've just never got round to it. Honestly speaking, this is the exact experience I wanted and needed at the time. And firstly, the food in this film will seriously make your stomach growl. When I mentioned on Twitter I was watching Chef, a lot of people advised me to not go in with an empty stomach. So I ate my dinner whilst I was actually watching it, and pretty much 20 minutes later I was hungry again. I really feel that Jon Favreau is an excellent director and doesn't quite get the credit he deserves, even after the couple of big hitters he's directed. But he's also exceptionally likeable in front of the camera, and his personality really shines in Chef. This is such a well-meaning, feel-good film. There's nothing cynical here. It's not trying to win Oscars or change the world. It's just a simple, well-told, feel-good story. I can see myself rewatching this in the future. It's definitely one of those films where if you spot it on TV late at night whilst channel surfing, you'll sit through it till the end. Number 7, Extraction. Not a film about dentistry as I hoped. It's another brain into neutral film I've been meaning to watch since it first released last year. And just like with Chef, it was exactly what I wanted and what I needed at the time. Extraction is a frenetic and brutal action film starring Chris Hemsworth, and it was, I believe, the first movie that the Russos worked on after Avengers Endgame, and they were on writing and producing duties here. Chris Hemsworth really puts in a shift here and is totally convincing as a different kind of badass to Thor. The absolute standout moment of Extraction, though, is a 12-minute apparent one-shot which includes 2 car chases, an on-foot chase, several gun battles, knife fights and hand-to-hand combat sequences, and it is absolutely jaw-dropping. There are apparently 36 hidden takes in this apparent one-shot, and I just can't imagine the amount of choreography, rehearsals and editing effort that took to make this sequence. Unfortunately, this sequence comes fairly early on in the film and nothing afterwards can really match it. I wish they'd saved it for the conclusion. But in general, this is another great addition to this kind of John Wick, brutal, fast-paced action film. Number 6, Love and Monsters. Another film which has been out in America for about 10 years, just premiered on Netflix in April in the UK.
Oh my God.
Where have you been, Joel?
Amy, I love you. I'm gonna come find you.
I've been looking forward to this one because it seemed like the perfect film I could sit down and watch with my daughter Bethan. She's quite possibly the world's biggest Dylan O'Brien fan, so we've both been quite excited to see this one since we saw the trailer in 1984, wherever it was. And yeah, spot the trend. This was exactly what I wanted and exactly what I needed. It feels a little like a throwback to the sci-fi and fancy films I watched in the mid to late 80s and early 90s. It really has that Saturday matinee popcorn kind of feel to it. The kind of film that is aimed at kids, older kids, but adults can really enjoy it as well. And there's not many of these films being made anymore, so it's refreshing to have some back. I can understand why my daughter's a big fan of O'Brien. He really oozes effortless charisma and he's just great on screen. Love and Monsters breaks no new ground. The story of where these monsters originated is pretty hokey and not particularly well told. The film in general is very predictable and has an ending which doesn't quite ring true based on the actions of some characters at the start of the film. But Love and Monsters has great effects, a very solid cast including the sadly underused Michael Rooker, and it's just extremely entertaining from start to finish. Number 5, Promising Young Woman. Oh look, another film which has been out forever in America which has only just made it to the poor old UK.
What are you gonna do?
I don't know.
So this was actually my least favourite of the Best Pick Oscar nominations, and although I did quite enjoy it and I gave it a 3.5 out of 5 on Letterboxd. I have a lot of issues with the film, but 2 things from the general consensus that I can totally agree on. Carey Mulligan is absolutely outstanding, and Emerald Fennell's direction is bright and exciting. Some of the writing and casting decisions I was less taken with. I felt at times the story is just a little bit too on the nose and a little bit too spelt out for the viewer. It seemed to me that the film believed it was shocking us to show just how fucking awful some men can be. Whilst the sad fact of the matter is, I really think most of us know just how fucking awful some men are. Granted, it was refreshing to have a female lead and to see these situations not only from her perspective, but under the reins of her control. And this is where Mulligan and the film absolutely nails it. I'd heard that the end of Promising Young Woman was extremely divisive and a lot of people hated it. No spoilers here, but I'll just say that I mostly liked the ending, but it didn't totally work for me because of a casting and performance choice in a pivotal role in that ending. Promising Young Woman felt like a nearly film for me. For me, there were just a few too many moments which felt a little bit too heavy-handed, but this is at least an interesting, well-made and entertaining film. Number 4, Crawl. Crawl was a blast. Again, a definite old school feel to this creature feature and another post-it note premise really. I ranted on Twitter after I watched this, after I read some of the negative reviews on IMDb. I just don't get it. It's been a while since I watched a film which fulfilled its remit as much as Crawl. The negative reviews pretty much amounted to, this is a stupid film about stupid people being attacked by some alligators. And I just have to question, what is it that you expected when you picked to watch a stupid film about stupid people being attacked by alligators? Crawl is taut, fast-paced and pure horror action fun. It's pretty much what I expected The Meg to be. Yes, there are a few moments where logic is defied, but honestly I say to you, if you really fancy watching a stupid film about stupid people being attacked by alligators, Crawl is probably your best bet. Number 3, Palm Springs.
Nice.
Another old classic finally released in the UK 15 months after its US release. 15. I keep mentioning these huge delays in films, and besides it being a little bit annoying, or completely annoying, it also changes your expectations and your excitement for a film. I've been looking forward to this one for so long, but you can only hear, oh, you're going to love this when you eventually get to see it, so many times before it becomes a little bit annoying. All that grumpy rubbish aside, this is a very entertaining film. Amazingly, this is the second decent time loop film I've seen this year after The Map of Tiny Perfect Things, but I feel Palm Springs went a few extra steps to add its own sense of originality to the format. Andy Samberg and Kristen Milioti have great chemistry, and I really like how this feels like the Gen Z version of Groundhog Day, where the protagonists just depressively and unambitiously shrug their way through their infinite time loop. Andy Samberg plays himself, as he pretty much always does, but he's just so likeable and watchable. And the film has bonus J.K. Simmons, which is always a win. Number 2, The Father. Now, stay with me here. I actually found The Father to be a slight disappointment. People seem to get very confused about that kind of thing, that a disappointment can still be great. And this was great. I thought it was great, but I kind of expected it to be exceptional. I was so excited for The Father. I'd heard about how amazing Anthony Hopkins is, obviously. I've pretty much been in love with Olivia Colman since Peep Show, and I'd heard how it draws the viewer into dementia through its clever storytelling. So on the plus side, everything I'd heard is true. Hopkins is absolutely incredible. You feel his confusion, you feel his emotions that relive in pain as he forgets and remembers the past. And you also really feel the sting when he loses his shit with everyone around him. Olivia Colman is as awesome as expected in a role which looked exceptionally draining, and Rufus Sewell's pretty good as a shitbag. And I loved how the film does mess you around, changing things subtly at first so you question what you're watching and what you remember from earlier in the film, and then in big and more obvious ways as Hopkins' confusion ramps up. But what held the film back for me slightly was the script and its heavy-handed theatre stylings. I'm aware that The Father was adapted from a stage play, so it's always going to bring that kind of staginess, for want of a better phrase. But some of the dialogue here felt really clunky to me and totally took me out of the experience. Hopkins repeating that Paris will be a problem destination for his daughter because no one speaks English there just didn't feel like something this character or any character would say. And the constant repetition of, "Dad, don't you remember, Dad?" I mean, no, he doesn't remember. Don't you remember that he doesn't remember? Stop asking him if he remembers. And this is probably a very controversial view, but that showy scene at the end with Hopkins where he begs for his mommy in the home, it didn't quite ring true for me. It just felt stagey again. That's my best way I can describe it. Perhaps some of these were intentional to add to the confusion the father's trying to force on his viewer, but I don't think so. But perhaps it's just me being grumpy again. So, in conclusion, to me, The Father was an excellent disappointment. Number 1, Judas and the Black Messiah. This one wasn't disappointing. In fact, I think it was a little bit better than I expected. And yes, I held off paying that $15.99 rental fee for probably too long because, $15.99.
The Black Panthers are the single greatest threat to our national security. Our counterintelligence program must prevent the rise of a Black Messiah.
But Judas and the Black Messiah was great, and it ended up being my favourite of the Best Pick Oscar nominations. Obviously, Daniel Kaluuya is insanely good here and just riveting to watch. Like a lot of people have said, I just wish he was in the film a little bit more. It helps he's playing a real legend in Fred Hampton, an impassioned man who demanded attention in all he did, and Kaluuya absolutely nails him, even if he's about 10 years too old. Lakeith Stanfield is also excellent in the less glamorous role as Bill O'Neill, a character where my sympathies went back and forward constantly. Essentially a bit of a snake, O'Neill found himself in a difficult position where his allegiances changed as the grip of the police tightened around him. And once again, the police and the government of America do not come out of this one looking good. What they did to Hampton is utterly disgusting, especially when you look at what Hampton's main goals were, to try and feed hungry children from poor families. Yeah, he stirred up a bit of shit, but come on, man. I was pretty angry after I watched this film, especially that clip of Bill O'Neill at the end. Just made my blood boil a little bit, but massive credit to Shaka King for making a real firecracker of a film. So that's it. That's my 15 first-time watches from the month of April. What would your picks be from my list, and what were your favourite first-time watches of the past few weeks? Until next time, thanks for watching.
Game over, man. It's game